First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight and taking a little time on your Wednesday afternoon to learn more about what's going on in Cochise County, especially regarding the proposed jail and everything else. I'm Frank Anthony. I'm a county supervisor for District 3. What we're going to do is we're going to introduce everybody here and have everybody run down, and then the format's going to be we're going to hand it off to the sheriff and his team, and they're going to explain what's going on with the current jail, why we need a new jail, and whatnot, and then Kathleen Gomez, District 2, and I will talk about the mechanics of the election, how we got here, the dollars and the project itself, on how we plan to proceed with the project. And then our county attorney will explain the efforts that she's doing to help with the cost reduction, to keep costs down from the aspects related to the jail. Of course, we have Judge Sworn will talk about the benefits to the courts for some of the things we're planning on doing with the jail. So with that, Judge, will you start out, introduce yourself, and then we'll go down the line here. No, yourself, and then, you know.
I'm David Thorne. I'm the presiding judge in Cochise County.
Hi, I'm Lori Zuko. I'm the county attorney.
Kathleen Gomez from District 2, Supervisor.
Good evening, everyone. Sheriff Mark Downs, Cochise County.
I'm Megan Kennedy. I'm the Director of Detention Health Services in the jail.
Kenny Bradshaw, the jail commander for the sheriff's office.
Well, again, good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming out. I was telling a couple of folks out front here that I think I know everybody in the room for the most part. It must not be something good on TV tonight, but I don't want to say that. But either way, I'm glad you're here. I mean, one of the things that, as we go through for a second time, is to make sure that we're educating the public on what our intent is and transparency on the front line on this. I will say, on behalf of my authority as a sheriff, which is the Public Safety Authority, as you know, the board controls elections, departments within there. I control the public safety and have a mandate to ensure I run that jail, to make sure the inmates are safeguarded. But number two is our officers are safe. So a little historical on this jail. When I started, I was booking at the old courthouse in Old Bisbee. So if you ever look at the old courthouse, beautiful building, but you look up to the third floor, I believe it is, you'll see the bars up there. That's where we used to book it. We ride an elevator, up the elevator. Some of you all in the room that's been around know exactly what I'm saying with that. It was always fun to take a drunk up the elevator, if you know the reason. So I watched them open that jail 40 years ago. It was built in 1986. And so I watched them open the door, and I hate to say it, and back at the time, it fit the needs of Cochise County and the citizens and the crime that we used to address back in 86. But now, 40-some years later, guess what? It's outdated for industry standards. My jail commander is going to speak in just a minute. Kenny Bradshaw is retired deputy warden. He'll address you. I hired him. He's been with Sheriff Deaver, now he's with me. His job is to ensure that the mandates by law are being addressed within that jail. I didn't grow my career inside the correctional side of it. I grew it on the law enforcement side of it when it comes to the enforcement side. So that's what he does. He's my go-to guy. But I'll just tell you, if anybody saw the Tom Hanks movie with Money Pit, that's what that's become. I can't be, and we've been very good, based on the circumstances, a good steward of your money when it comes to that facility, whether it's an infrastructure issue, a plumbing issue, a wire issue, whatever. I look at the fire alarm system, the control box is out of that right now, and the breaker's working, but the control box, the alarm system itself is not, which now the board and I are working with the dilemma trying to get a remedy to that, which is costing you money. And that's just one of many, many things we've done over the years. That jail was initially built for a little over 160 people. 20 years ago plus, they actually double bunked it, which now holds 302.
Oh.
So again, but we didn't remodel or enhance the jail or grow the jail, we double bunked the jail. And the last several years, we've had a challenge with border crimes. I think you all know I'm not going to get the big border issues tonight, but we packed that jail. And let me tell you, we saw, it was tough. It was tough. And thanks to Lori Zuko and the criminal justice system, we actually made it work to keep you all safe. There's 3 objectives, and this came from a survey from the first one we did, was the fact that there's 3 objectives. One is inmate safety, officer safety. That was the number 1 priority when they did the community survey. Number 2 was mental health. And I don't need to get deep into that, but you understand where I'm going with that. Number 3 is your quality of life. As you sit here tonight, imagine if we didn't have that jail. We couldn't use the jail to its full capacity. And what I have not heard is a better way to do it, to build it. Folks, it's time. It's trying. I thank everyone in this room, and if you don't support us, I still thank you, because you're here tonight. At the end of the day is, you've supported law enforcement, the sheriff's office, the police departments, our troopers, our federal agents, to go out and keep you safe. And I appreciate that. We appreciate that. And hopefully we've taken care of you the same. We reciprocated that. But at the end of the day, whether you're a judge, a prosecutor, defense attorney, a sheriff, or a police chief, at the end of the day, the common nexus is a jail, a quality jail. Not a worn down building that's costing more money you know what to do with. And every day that goes by is a blessing that we don't have a lawsuit on our hands because of that. I can't go into detail with that because that's just not what I'm going to do tonight. But I can tell you that it's time. So if you trust us, I don't ask for many things from the public. You don't see me talk. Several years ago, I got in front of you all. Some of you same people, Mr. Chance was there, and others were at that same meeting here in Sierra Vista. And I'll say this to you: nothing's changed. In fact, it's got worse. So unless somebody wants to drop a couple $1 million on us and say, hey, let's build you a jail. Getting grants for jail is tough. Commander Bradshaw and I went to the state, and we bawled, begged, and said, hey, we need money. They gave us $20 million, in as long as the contingency was we had the funds to match it and build the jail. So again, we've gone everywhere we can trying to get people to build a jail for us. And if you say, well, why don't you build the federal government building jails? Folks, those are soft-sided jails that President Trump's doing. And I've been asked that several times. They are not brick and mortar facilities. That's going to take Cochise County into the future. So what I'm saying to you is, if you trusted us as law enforcement, you trust me as your sheriff, at the end of the day is, trust me when I say, it's time. We have to come together as a community to do this. And I'll let them talk on the business side. That's their job. They do business. I do public safety. Together, we keep you safe. So, and thank you, Sharon, in the back, for all your work on this. Sharon's our county administrator. I want to thank her for all the work on that. And any questions for me before I sit down? I'm going to turn it over to Kenny Bradshaw.
No, go ahead, give it to Kenny.
Okay. Kenny and Megan's our health director for the jail. It's a whole other aspect that many of us don't talk about, and which is very important to what we do. Kenny, thanks.
Well, good evening. I just wanted to bring up a few just real simple things. When they originally built the jail, the people that built the jail, when it was brand new, it wasn't even built to specifications at the time, to current guidelines. When they built the jail, they didn't even think about the officers and officer stations. So right now, the officer stations are desks that are thrown in hallways. The hallways look like the inside of a submarine. They have conduit and Cat 5 and everything else running up and down the hallways that's exposed to the inmates to abuse the facility. Obviously, we have control, but there are those that try and act out, and we address that when it happens, but the residents there aren't necessarily there to take care of that living area. So it's got a lot of abuse over the years. Where the officers are, whenever inmates are transported to anywhere, move to medical, move to go to court, go to wherever, they walk right through where the officer station is. There is not a dedicated control room for each area of the jail. That's just one simple officer safety issue that we want to address. The other is mental health. I know, if the sheriff gets called for the 3rd time during the day to the speedway because some guy's standing out front cussing everybody out and just acting a fool, after that 3rd time, he's got to do something. I mean, he's either got to charge him with trespassing or disorderly or whatever, because when they built Canyon Vista and the 4th floor, we thought it was going to be a great relief to the county. There's only 14 beds there, and those 14 beds are mostly dedicated to Port Huachuca. So if we don't want to drive them to Tucson, which is another big expense, because the taxpayers of Pima County don't want to pay for our mentally ill. So the only other choice is to bring them to jail. Once they get in jail, if they're so mentally ill that they can't survive in the general population because they'll be preyed on, or they can't be in there because they'll be injure someone else, then we have to isolate them. And you or me isolated for any amount of time would start to lose it a little bit, and these folks already have problems, so we're not doing them any justice whatsoever. In a new modern facility, we have mental health dedicated housing with professionals that actually work in that area with them all the time, and we can just do so much good for this county if we, and the inmates and the staff, if we can get some of those new modern things in a new modern jail. Thank you. And this is Megan Kennedy. She is the Director of Health Services for detention.
Thank you guys for coming. Like the sheriff said, whether you're for or against this, we appreciate you showing up to be present and hear what we have to say. I've worked at the Cochise County Jail in health services for 20 years, and when they built the jail in 1986, there wasn't a medical unit. And so where medical is now is where the old locker rooms used to be. Because in 1986, we didn't have the type of population that we have and the content of the population that we have and the health problems that we have. And so we are, we're jam-packed into an area, a very, very small clinic. We're limited with the services that we can provide in that clinic because of the size. We've definitely done things along the way to adapt and grow into our spaces. And it's worked out well, but it's been tough for sure. The opioid pandemic that we're facing, especially in a border state and especially in a border county, is a huge strain on our health system within the jail. We have an astronomical amount of individuals that are coming in that are going through severe withdrawals and that we have to treat. We're required to provide constitutionally adequate health care. It's not an option. We need to be able to provide safe care to the individuals that are in the facility in order to provide safe care for them and to provide safe care for the staff that work there as well. And it can be a strain on the system, period. So we obviously are behind the times. We definitely need to have the space and have the equipment and have the safety within the facility in order to continue to care for these individuals. And if you guys have any questions for me,
We can take them all at the end too. I'm sure they'll come. So I'd like to get into the money part now, as those of you in the room who are all taxpayers would like to know. When Ms. Gomez and I were elected this past November, when we started taking over the second look here with the jail, there was a lot of issues that we had to deal with. One is we had an active lawsuit against the county challenging the previous election. It was in May of 2023. We also had taxpayers come to us complaining about the potential duration of the tax, 25 years with the potential being renewed. Other issues related to what if we have another emergency in the county and we need a half-cent. Because the county, I don't know if many of you know, we are limited to 1 cent sales tax. That's all we can charge. All right, cities can do 2.5 cents. The county can only do 1 cent. So we already had a half-cent county sales tax that was in existence. And then adding that other half-cent, that half-cent is our cap on sales tax. So if we had to generate any other revenue, we would have to go to property taxes, which I do not want to raise property taxes. Ms. Gomez and I and Mr. Crosby just one day lowered everybody's tax rate and gave everybody a little over a 2% property tax cut that you will see coming here in October. We would rather generate revenue from business growth and tourism and sales tax revenue, which is a better way, I think, of generating tax revenue. So with regard to the half-cent sales tax, what we're going to try to do is use that half-cent sales tax to cover the cost of construction of this new jail. And then as soon as the jail is completed and we pay off the bond, the mortgage on this jail, the sales tax goes away. What that does is it enables us to have that potential, if we need it for, like we're saying, like a hospital that we may need, particularly for the mental health piece of this, or we may need to do a bond for roads, to try to improve the roads in the county. We need that half-cent for something else. Or there's a disaster or an emergency that we need like 2 or 3 years of half-cent sales tax to help mitigate the cost of that. We will have that ability to do that by relieving that half-cent sales tax when the jail's built. So that puts that half-cent back into if there's an emergency, it's available for use, so we don't have to raise your property taxes if there's an emergency. The other thing we looked at is the approximate cost to build a jail. We have our jail project manager and our county administrator in the back. And we hired a company to do a study. Ms. Chin, the Chin Group, did an analysis. They provided us with a lot of information. We just hired yesterday our buyer's rep that's going to start helping us organize the project plan for this jail and to interview and hire contractors to begin the process of building this jail. That process we've determined is going to, the jail's going to be around somewhere, the physical building itself is going to be somewhere around 190 to, or excuse me, 90 to 100 million dollars for the actual building of the jail. We're hoping to try to keep it towards the 90 side. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to do a bond through a company called Stiefel. And they're giving us a pretty good bond rate. I mean, I wish you could get a mortgage for that, but they're somewhere between 4.5% to 5%, which I think is pretty reasonable. It's a pretty reasonable rate. We intend to bond for $100 million. So that will cover the physical construction costs of the jail, and then the additional $10 million will cover the planning, the architectural design costs, and some of the other side costs that go with building that jail. So you're looking at about $100 million to bond for it. The legislature, as the sheriff had mentioned, he'd been able to work with Dale Griffin and the legislature to secure a 20% match. So they will match for every dollar we spend, they will match 20 cents of every dollar. So if we spend $100 million, the state will provide $20 million in addition to that. We've already generated now, we're around $14 million from the half-cent sales tax that just went away because of the lawsuit. We ended the half-cent sales tax. So we generated got about 14 million in the bank sitting there right now that's there from the previous sales tax. So the plan is, you're looking at about 130 million total, $1 million for the bond, 20 million for the, excuse me, 100 million for the bond, 20 million for the state match, and about 14 or so million that's already been generated. The plan is, we intend to keep at least 10 million in reserve for unforeseen costs, material inflation costs, construction inflation costs, to try to offset in case there's, for some reason, an unforeseen cost that occurs. But as soon as that jail is built, whatever that management reserve is going to go straight to the bond. We've already talked with the bond company about developing an accelerated payment. So when you see on your ballot, you're going to see for 17 years. The reason we had to go for 17 years is, one, after you guys, if you approve the bond, right, we have to, there's time for the sales tax to turn back on. So if you guys vote for this in November, the sales tax doesn't get turned back on until July 1st of 2026. And then that half-cent sales tax will start again. That is when we can have discussions with the bonding company, because the bonding company will not talk to us unless we have a secured source of revenue to repay the bond. So there's a delay there before we can get the bond in place. We can't start active construction until we have the bond, and then the construction companies will be more than happy to give us bids to build the jail. So that's going to take a little time. So we had to have a buffer on that period. We only intend to get a 15-year bond. The period of time for the bond is going to be 15 years. However, because the bond company says we are allowed to make accelerated payments, let me just, I got the amortization schedule here. They have a minimum requirement for us to make a minimum payment of roughly around $7 million a year. The sales tax is probably going to generate, as it has been, somewhere around $9 million bucks a year, $9 to $10 million bucks a year. That leaves us a $3 million cushion. If we just pay the minimum payment over the same amount of time as the sales tax is coming in, the sales tax is going to generate $88 million in excess of the bond payment. So rather than just having $88 million sitting there not doing nothing, the board has decided we're going to accelerate the payments, and we're going to put that all towards principal and try to pay this bond off in less than 10 years. So even though the tax itself, the period that you're granting us in the resolution that's on the ballot is 17 years. The bond itself will be for 15 years, and then we're going to do everything we can to accelerate the payment to have that bond paid off in 10. As soon as the bond is paid off, the jail district goes away, all the maintenance and operation costs for the jail will come out of the general fund, as it has in the past, and the sheriff will have, with the resources he needs, we will fund him to make sure he has the ability to operate that jail, to oversee and operate that jail, out of the general fund. And then again, the sales tax will end within 90 days, because we have to notify the state. It takes about 90 days for them to shut that tax off. But we're gonna program it so we have approximately an idea of what that is, so that we can prepay that and then notify the state, and then by the time that last check comes in, that'll pay off the rest of the bond, and then we're done. That is the plan. We're working with our county attorney and the courts to do some cost-saving measures as well, with regard to putting a courtroom in the jail, which will save a lot of inmates back and forth to the main courthouse. They can do a lot of arraignments and whatnot in that courtroom, which will save the taxpayers money. And of course, the county attorney has strategies and stuff that she's going to implement to try to reduce the impact of putting people in the jail, to reduce that. The other aspect on the construction side, we're going to build this jail with the support capacity of about 600 inmates. That means the kitchen, the medical facility, and everything in that jail will be able to support 600 inmates, but we're only going to build housing right now as it sits for about 400 inmates. If the jail goes beyond that number, then we can add a modular residential, I don't know what the word, what would you call it? Right, so we'll add more cells if we need to, and the infrastructure to support them will already be there. So the kitchen and mental health, and of course the administrative aspects of that jail will be built with the mindset of, if we ever get to that point, in 50 years from now, nobody knows where this county will be population-wise, or where the jail populations be. So we're going to plan in advance for potential growth, but we're only going to build for the current number of inmates in the jail, plus a buffer in the initial build of about 100 inmates above what we're currently carrying now. And that's going to be somewhere less than 400. So we're going to build for 400, and that's the rationale behind that. But we're going to have the ability to add 2 more cell blocks, or whatever you want. If the population of the jail gets up above 300, that'll give us time, and then we can get the fourth, the 500, and we'll build another one for 600, depending on that time. But we're going to build it with a modular approach. So that's kind of the way we're looking at it right now. That's the financial side of it. We're hoping to get this thing done in 10 years, hopefully. But it could conceivably, if there's an economic downturn, that's why the bonding company wants us to do a 15-year bond and only pay $7 million a year on that bond, because if the economy goes down and our sales tax revenue drops, they want to make sure we can still pay the bond off. But if that year does well, and we generate significantly more sales tax revenue, we're putting it all towards the mortgage. And we're going to pay that off as quickly as possible and retire that bond as quickly as we can. That helps us reduce the interest that we will pay, and it's dramatic too. I mean, it drops it from like $32 million over 15 years down to like $23 million. It's like a $10 million savings in interest if we pay it off early. So that's the goal of accelerating those payments. Right? Just like you would if you tried to pay your mortgage off. Same sort of concept. So do you want to add something?
So I want you to be assured that we're also looking at other ways in which we can save. We just had a meeting with the Greater Arizona Development Authority that just relaunched a program in helping small counties in their infrastructure. And it looks like maybe they might even be able to save us $500,000 and also help us with our timeline to reduce it so that we can maybe look at 5 to 10 years. So that's a great resource. So we're always going to be looking in ways in which we can save taxpayer money. I think one of the things as a new board of supervisor and coming into this where it had been going on for 3-4 years, the one thing when I toured that jail is how shocked I was that it had gotten to this point. I pray every night that nothing happens in that jail because I'm now responsible for all those people. 46% of the people that work in that jail come from Douglas. And then there's the smallest, they get Vista and then it's Bisbee. But not only for the staff, but for the inmates themselves. When you have such a high percentage of people in the jail that have mental health problems, it's up to us to take care of them. We cannot sit there and say it's not our responsibility. Or we can't sit there and say, oh, well, just renovate the jail. We're having to put a lot of money just into this fire alarm in a building that has, I mean, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. Whether you're talking about where the mental health people are, whether you're talking about the kitchen, whether you're talking about the environment the staff has, whether you're talking about just the ability to have a safe environment, it is absolutely not there. So, being an elected, and all those who may be opposing this, I say you have to look, and you have to look at God and say, what is my responsibility to the people who are in this jail, who have made maybe bad choices, and are put there, who knows what their situation is? We have to take care of that population. That is our responsibility, and I don't take lightly to it. And of course, you know, nobody wants to raise taxes, but this is something that needs to be done. There's no other option, and I can talk to each one of you and tell you why I'm so passionate that this jail has to be made. That has to be built. Now, Sierra Vista, you guys voted for it. I have to sit there and I have to convince Bisbee and Douglas and Elfrida and the rest of District 2 why we need this jail, and I will do that because it is so paramount to the safety of the staff and to the inmates that we have a responsibility to. There's no other way about it. If you have any kind of grace and any kind of belief in God, what our responsibilities are, your responsibility as a citizen is also to provide that kind of safe environment. You can't walk away and say, hey, I don't want to pay taxes, I don't want to be involved, and I don't want to be concerned, because that's just not going to work in our environment today in this county. So I thank you all for coming. This is something that's really needed, and we hope that we can explain why it is needed, and I think we have if you listen to the sheriff and now you listen to the county attorney's office. So be assured that we're going to look in ways in which we can pay this off quickly. Any other options that we can do to find organizations that can help us, we will do that. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Lori Zucco. I'm the Cochise County Attorney. Prior to being elected in the last election, I was the Chief Criminal Deputy for about 7 years, and I've been a prosecutor in that office for more than 15 years. So I'm very familiar with the criminal justice system in Cochise County. Just so that everyone's on the same page, the jail is a detention center. It's supposed to be a temporary housing for people who are arrested and charged with sometimes serious violent offenses, and where they're awaiting trial before they're sentenced to the Department of Corrections to serve their, generally lengthy or their prison sentence. It's also where people who are charged with misdemeanors either serve a sentence after conviction, or for instance, if they've been out on a warrant for a long time, or they pose a danger to like a domestic violence victim, then they're also detained at the county jail for a period of time, and misdemeanor sentences never go over 6 months. So when I talk to you about the county attorney's office working with under the CHIN plan and county administration to reduce the cost to taxpayers and reduce lengths of stay at the jail, I don't want anyone to think that that means that I'm not tough on crime. The sheriff can attest to my bona fides in that area. But it is designed as a temporary detention facility. So some of the things that we do as an office to reduce pretrial detention lengths before someone is either sentenced to prison or released is early resolution court. We've had that program for 15 years. And what Mr. Antonori was talking about is right now that court takes place in Division 1 in the old Bisbee Courthouse, and Mr. Commander Bradshaw can tell you that there's always issues with transportation and with attorney visits at the jail causing delays in that system. So if we are able to move early resolution court to the new jail facility, which is anticipated, that will really promote judicial economy and help us in the process of getting these cases through early resolution court process with due process and swiftly, so that these people can be then either sentenced to probation or off to the Department of Corrections and not in our county jail, reducing the cost. And then another program that we do, actually it's a whole umbrella of programs that we have greatly expanded in the last 2 years with a rural alternative prosecution grant that we were awarded for $500,000 2 years ago, is our diversion program. And we have, we started with a simple diversion program that really wasn't all encompassing and didn't focus on treatment. And we have now expanded that, and we have a drug diversion coordinator, and we just had our second round of drug diversion graduates last Friday. And we have expanded to, well, we've had it for a couple years, a GRACE program, which is a mental health diversion program. And we now, I think we had 800 people, including traffic diversions, going through diversion last year. And we've saved, I mean, I can't even tell you how much time in incarceration at just the county jail through the expansion of our diversion program, which we're continuing to grow. In fact, we are starting a new veterans court. We're launching it in October. It's going to be, we'll promote it through the county and the sheriff's webpage. It will be starting in JP5 as a pilot program. We're partnering with the Warrior Healing Center to do that and other agencies. So like I said, we're always looking at ways to reduce that jail population for the non-violent, non-repeat offenders who can be members of our community. In fact, we have a goal in our diversion program that if you are at the jail, we will have you screened and we will make a decision on your diversion within 30 days. That's our goal. And if somebody has health insurance, so they have treatment options available, sometimes it can be even quicker. That 30 days generally helps us get these folks connected to either access or other VA forms of insurance that will facilitate their treatment. So we really have expanded these programs in the last few years, and they're just going to continue to grow because I really think that they do benefit the community. And again, these are the non-violent, lower, non-repetitive offenders that we're focusing on, people who we know can be productive members of our society, and this will lower the cost for the jail. Thank you.
Good. Well, I don't have a lot to add. I think it's all been really thoroughly explained, but my thoughts on it for you all and for anyone else who's listening are to try to help you contextualize this. Before I got elected as a judge in 2018, I spent the bulk of my career representing people who were accused of committing crimes. I spent many, many, many hours as Lieutenant Heisner and Lieutenant Monhay can tell you. I was banging on the door constantly. I need to go see my clients. I moved down here in 2001, so that's how long I've been doing that. Everyone sort of touched on the context of the jail, but the jail is a complete complex, right? You need a place to make food for people. You need a kitchen. You need a laundry room. You need people to move the things around. You need a place for a medical facility. The medical facility is a room, okay? And I had Commander Bradshaw took myself and all the justices of the peace and a number of other folks on a tour. I hadn't been out to the jail in, 5 or 6 years because I got elected to be judge. And so he's showing us around, and we walk by the medical facility. It's just a room. There's a door open. There's a woman, and she's wearing her jail clothes. It was black and green, or whatever the black and white striped clothes are. And she's sitting there, and here's a bunch of strangers walking by. I mean, we weren't seeing what they were doing or anything, but there was no privacy. There was nothing like that. And I just thought how this poor woman is sitting here and she's telling whoever the person that she was telling whatever her problem was, I wasn't listening, but here's the indignity of all these strangers walking by. So when you think about the jail, it's not just a jail with a cell like it's Mayberry and it's Otis and he closes the door and there's Sheriff Taylor's office and Otis can get the key out whenever he wants. It's not like that. It's mental health facilities. The mental health facility are these isolation cells where they're segregated from everyone, and it's bad. And it's bad for the staff to have to go in there and clean up after these folks who do all sorts of unspeakable things that you might imagine people who are seriously mentally ill might do when they're alone by themselves and given their thoughts. So when we come up with a jail, I really hope it's very well thought out, it's very well planned, that it has things like a courtroom in it. But when you have a space for a courtroom, you need a space for a judge and a space for the judge's assistant. and a space for a courtroom clerk. And most people, when they leave jail, they're placed on probation. So only very serious crimes and violent people and dangerous people go to prison. So most people come out and they get probation. You need a spot for the probation officers, and you need a spot to screen them. You need a spot for the prosecutors, and you need a spot for the prosecutors' secretaries, and you need a spot for the people who represent victims and witnesses in cases. And so it's a complex. You need a spot for people who are representing the people that are in the jail to go, and a spot for their secretaries and their staff, and you need a spot for the prosecutors. So it's the jail is not just the jail and a bunch of cells. It's an entire little complex. And if you can have court there and not have to transport these folks, what did you tell me yesterday? 4,000 transports a year that they take for these folks. So these are 6 guys and women in a van, and they have to load them all up, and they're in belly chains and their legs are chained, so they're doing that little shuffle kind of walk like that. It's very difficult. One of them falls down and hurts themselves. What do you think they want to sue? Cochise County. So if we don't have to do that and move them around, or the van breaks down, or the van gets in a car accident, or something happens, if we don't have to move them around, it reduces the potential liability for the county, and that's a good thing because that saves us money in the long run. Did I forget anything? I hope not. If you have any questions, please.
I would just like to also make a comment. What happens if we don't build the jail? What happens is that the federal government could come in and have an injunction against us. That means that we have to close it down and we have to ship all inmates to Pima, to Grinley, to Cram, and that's $10 million at least a year. 9 million or so. And if the federal government comes and closes us down, or what did you say, it actually appoints somebody to oversee what we're doing?
Special masters.
Special masters. That's a whole other thing where Maricopa County, as you told me, is still not 15 years.
Just got off it.
They just got off it, and the cost to have that is astronomical. So when you talk about saving taxpayers' money, this jail is going to do that. Whereas if we don't, believe me, that if we don't build this jail, that's going to be the next thing that happens. And the cost of the taxpayers is going to be it's going to be insurmountable. It's going to be unbelievable, and we won't be able to do anything else. And if we get sued because of the situation and the conditions of the jail, we won't be able to, as Board of Supervisors, to pay for anything else. So thank you.
So I know you have one, not that you reminded me, jog my brain here. Several folks have asked why we can't renovate the old jail. We could. There's nothing that says we can't. It is going to be a significant undertaking to do so. So, talking with Commander Bradshaw, if the sewer and water system in that place is shot, it's got to be gutted. Okay, the electrical system, that's why we're replacing the fire alarm. All the wires are fried, everything. So we would not be able to do that renovation and fix up that old jail without moving all the inmates out. And I think you get the quote was from Santa Cruz County, is that correct?
No,
Pinal County. No, it was $9 million a year. That's $9 million. Just you're throwing it to another county. You're giving them the money to go do stuff in their county. So you're going to give Pinal County, what could be anywhere from 18 to 24 months to renovate that jail. So you're looking at $18 million that we're gifting to Pinal County, and then you got to do the renovations on the jail, which could be anywhere between $20 to $25 million, which will only extend the life of that jail for 10 to 15 years, and then you're definitely going to need it. You're just delaying the inevitable because you're still going to have to build a jail. So it would be, and then the other aspect, which this is a thing that Kathleen and I deal with, what a lot of people don't realize is the legislature imposes on us a spending cap based on population. So right now in Cochise County, the most money that we can spend out of our general fund is $83 million. That is our cap. With this budget we just passed, we're like within $1 million of that right now. So if we had to go build a jail, and we had to send $9 million to Pinal County, and then we had to spend another, let's just say it takes 2 years, so you're talking another $10 million and $10 million, I have to cut spending in this county, which means roads, which means sanitation, the garbage dump, which means health, public health, the health department. We have to reduce spending everywhere else to offset that, to stay under that spending cap. Okay, so you're gonna see a severe, not just impact to the law enforcement side of the house, you're gonna see a serious impact to all services, because if I have to renovate the old jail, I gotta find a way to do it within that spending cap that the legislature has imposed on counties. So that's gonna be a significant challenge for us to be able to figure out how to pay for all of that without going over $83 million. Now, it goes up every year, and it's based on population and inflation, but unfortunately, Cochise County has been stagnant. And we've been just floating along at about 125 to 130,000. It's just been doing this for the past 30 years. So our spending limit has not been increasing much. If it goes up, it may go up $1 to $2 million a year. But guess what? All the cost of running this county also goes up 1 to 2 million a year. So we'll be backing in every fiscal year. We'll be backing into that spending cap where we're staying underneath that spending cap. And then the other side of the equation is we got to pay for it. So if I can't get a sales tax, I got to, and especially if the federal government steps in and the Justice Department comes in and shuts us down, and then they impose, by the way, what you meant to say was we have to pay for their staff. If the Justice Department comes in and takes over the jail, we have to pay their employee costs, their wages for the people that come down here. That's part of the fine for not staying compliant, and that's more money out the door. So we would stave off a ton of issues if we can get the okay from the voters to get that half-cent sales tax to go build this jail. And I was on the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I toured the jail tour. It is in such a state that it would just not be smart financially to try to fix this jail up. The resources that you just heard from the county attorney and the sheriff and his staff that we can put into a new jail to help save tax dollars. If you look at the totality of building this new facility, it's going to, in the long run, be a major benefit to the taxpayers in this county because of some of the cost-saving measures that we can build and efficiencies that we can build into that jail. You know, Commander Branchow's got to literally stick, when I was there, he's got to stick a deputy in the hallway because there's a blind spot where the camera can't see down this hallway and the camera can't see down that hallway, or there's the way the building is designed. He's got to physically put a guy sitting there in that section. With this new jail, we can automate cameras, we can put enough cameras in there, we can design it with input from Commander Bradshaw on how to make sure there's no blind spots, make sure that there's a safe way to flow inmates from one section to the other without having to have additional deputies. So there's a whole bunch of cost-saving measures. The last piece is talking to our county facilities director, Daryl. Daryl is going to dedicate 2 people to the maintenance of this jail. Kathleen and I, and Phil, who's our project manager, are going to work with our architect to design into this a maintenance plan and a schedule to keep this jail at 100% tip-top shape so it lasts 100 years. And that maintenance schedule will be provided to Daryl and his team so we don't have this problem again. But we have to be able to design those features in the jail, and there are certain ways to design it so that you can get access to certain technical stuff like pipes and wires and conduit and stuff without disrupting the jail. So all that has to go into the design. Right now you can't do that because all of it's in the hallways and through the ceilings and through the tops of the jail. So if we make that design, what you can do is you can maintain the jail easier, and we'll have a maintenance schedule that will maintain this jail, to keep this jail so we don't have to worry about this situation again. And as Commander Bradshaw says, we're going to build it to spec. To the criteria that, what is it called, the guys that set the standard? Is it NIJO? NIJO. So those guys will have input on the design with our architects as well. So we'll be legal, we'll be safe, and we're going to be as efficient as possible. And that's really the desire there. So with that, I don't know if anyone want to add anything, and then we'll do questions.
You know what, and I know this is a big request. Let me just say, it was the first time I'm going to do this, and it still is. In fact, it's getting costlier. Like you were saying. And I want to say this, as your sheriff, one thing I've done, sheriff's operation, I mean, we're larger apartments or offices within the county, so obviously you look at that, but what we've done is, and I've worked for the county as long as I have, is we go outside to find. We've brought in over $100 million with the border operations center that you see that kept you safe, especially over the last several years. That kept you safe, it cost you nothing. It cost you nothing. The CCOM, the Regional Communication Center IT upgrades around this county, which was one part away from having no 911, cost you nothing. The court security and upgrade in Wilcox cost you nothing. The training facility behind the jail and the shooting range back there cost you nothing. And I'm not saying that vehicles, equipment, 40, 50 vehicles last several years. I mean, offsetting costs, the taxpayers. So when I come to you and I say that, hey, I need your help on this one, I mean that one, because I don't know how else we can do it. And Frank made a very valid point, so Kathleen. The critics, I get it. Nobody likes to build a jail. It's not something that it's not a water park. I get it. But the end of the day this is a quality of life issue. It truly is. And if we don't get it, then we're in trouble. It cost Maricopa County, it's just up there a couple weeks, I looked at it today too, but I think it was the sheriff told me, $200 and some million under that oversight, that decree, cost the taxpayers. And what they get out of it? Nothing but a headache and a debt. My point is this, for those that criticize it or don't like it, and again, I get it, we're all respected to our opinions. Give me an idea then. Give us an idea besides saying it's not work. Give me an idea. We were 10 out of 15 sheriffs that have a jail district. And it's a blessing to the community, it's a blessing to those operations. And now we're going back, we'll do it again. At the end of the day go ask those other sheriffs how it works for them. Go ask those sheriffs. And all I'm saying to you is, it's an efficient way of doing business. It's an efficient way of doing business. And again, we're not asking you to build a training facility for us. We're not asking you to go out and buy me more deputies. We're not asking for anything like that. If you look at the average salary for a deputy in the state of Arizona, it's $66,000. We're still in the 50s. These detention officers get paid $47,000 a year right now. Thanks to the board, we got some money for them and for both sides, and we'll try to help that up. Thanks to Sharon and everybody's helping us with that. But at the end of the day, listen, Cochise County, we're in the bottom spectrum when it comes to compensation, not saying in a mean way. And again, we've done very well in this county to do the right thing. But this is a request that we have to come to you on this one, and we're here today. So I hope that makes a little sense to you, but if you want to grab me offline, or you want to question something, just let us know, or we'll tell you how it is.
So if anybody has any questions, feel free to stand up, and if you just...
Stand up.
Oh, okay, well, just so everybody can hear you.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the jail. Didn't the first go around, don't now. I've seen it. I hope the shout I never get put in there. But I do have a problem with the meeting now, because I just heard about this an hour ago on the news. There was no information anywhere. I even looked on the sheriff's webpage. I couldn't find it there. I had to Google it to find where the meeting was. And as important as this is for our county, I find it hard to believe that this is the only one we're gonna have in Sierra Vista. I think there's more people out there, and with the issues we had with the voting last time, we need to have more representation and people learning the importance of this. I mean, that jail is awful.
So,
So
This is the biggest problem in Cochise County. We really don't have a paper that people read. We don't have a TV.
Right.
Douglas has lost their paper. Tombstone doesn't have one. And it's Facebook, right?
yeah,
One of the things that we have to ask of people is to go on our Cochise County website, because it is there.
that's where I find me.
And this is the problem, is how do we reach people? It's the
Yeah.
biggest issue, because what happens is you get a lot more disinformation than you get actual correct information. So I had told Frank and Sharon that what we need to do is also go to the city council meetings, because people watch city council meetings.
Oh,
And online, yes. And, they don't necessarily go, but I know in Douglas, they all listen. So that is the other step that we're gonna do, is we're gonna go to this different city council meetings after these initial town halls. And I'm going to Rotary groups, we're going to go to Republican and Democratic groups,
Yeah.
because if anyone has an answer to that crucial problem, how do we get information, please let me know. Because it's like, whether it's a newsletter or whatever, it is difficult to get the information out.
just to stick up for our team, I want the sheriff to stick up for his as well. I know our public affairs person put this out in a press release a week ago. It's been covered, and it was published on the county website. It's been up on the county
I
website.
saw it on Channel 13.
That's
Yeah.
because of the press
And
release.
I saw it, and then I went to Google and I found it.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you have 2 radio stations
Right.
in this county. Did any of that go out?
We're
Did it
gonna
go out
actually,
today?
yes, it did.
Did it go out over the weekend?
And we're going
I don't
tomorrow
know.
to Cool FM Live,
Yeah.
because they have a huge, network, so we're doing that tomorrow.
Where, oh, you are, oh,
Yes.
that's good. Okay.
Yes, and, we've reached out to the papers, I think Sarah Vista Herald had it in their paper, it came out Monday or something like that. So we are limited because we don't have the kind of communication system that we used to have when I was growing up, or 15 or 20 years ago.
I'm not
Facebook?
on your case.
No, but
But I
it's,
think if it was on the sheriff's webpage.
We can get it out there.
Earlier, like a week ahead of time or something. I'm just saying, I think there needs to be another meeting in Sierra Vista before the election.
We'll definitely add another.
So what about this
So
video?
we'll do another one. I have no problem coming down here. My wife will dump me off and go to Target again. So that's not an
Yeah,
issue.
so hold on.
We'll be more than happy to add more. But this was just the initial rollout, and like Kathleen said, we're gonna be speaking individually. So what we're talking about here is this team of elected officials that we're having these town halls. We will add, we'll get with Sharon and with the sheriff and the county attorney and the judge to see if we can add one or two more to the schedule to provide more opportunity.
and I'd just like to say this is Jane Montgomery, who's
Yeah.
filming that, and she's gonna be putting it on our county website.
Oh, cool.
She's our public information officer.
And we'll throw it on ours too, because we got a good following, we'll throw that on.
Okay.
We gotta mediate who's.
Yeah, you go ahead and choose.
All right, so we'll go with this gentleman right here because I saw your hand up while you're, I don't know if you guys were leaving.
Yeah.
No, you.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, I've got just two questions.
Sure,
The first question has to do with the vote.
the vote, okay.
The vote, the way we vote. How often is the county recorder scrub our voter rolls? So that I was approached by an individual last year, I believe, to register. Okay? There was no question about my nationality, whether I was a citizen, my age,
Trying to get an answer.
my residence, or anything else. All I had to do was fill out a little piece of paper, and they were gonna take care of everything else.
I don't know about that.
That,
I don't know who it was.
I went straight up and side
I
this
got you.
saying,
So I know David Stevens scrubbed the inactive voter list before he stepped down, and I think he pulled like 4,000 people.
No, 40,000.
No, 4,000, yeah, it was like 4,000.
Sharon, do you remember?
4,000. So he does it at least every election cycle. I don't know, it's every 2 years. I don't know if he does it more than that. I'd have to ask Mr. Cloud. He's the county recorder. That's a separate elected office.
I understand.
It's not under that's
I
not
understand.
our department, so.
But our elections are what create the problem. Or what happened this last election, why we are all here right now,
That
is because something happened and people felt disenfranchised. Okay? I'm gonna leave it like that.
No, it's an all mail-in ballot.
That was.
We're against all mail-in ballots because why do you think so many people on the day of election come with their ballot? Because they don't trust the post office to get the ballot to where it's supposed to
And
be.
there's people that just want to vote in person, right?
Right.
So this election will have,
I'm
In-person
80 years
voting.
old. I voted when I was 21. And it was walking down to the school with your ID
yeah,
and finding yourself on the voter roll.
I got you. That's a debate for the legislature and for, I wish, and the county recorder. But we're here to talk about, if you want to talk about the specifics of the election for the jail, we could address that. But overall general election stuff, that's handled at the legislature. I know the county recorder and the board of supervisors has to abide by state law when it comes to
You
elections.
better get better PR.
Well,
I'll tell you right now.
We have to follow the law. I mean, that's the thing. So go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Dave Cook. I'm an engineer,
Oh,
and I've done projects all over the world.
you're gonna what?
I've done projects like.
Oh, projects all over the
large
world.
projects. Anyway, 3 questions. First, have you identified specific federal and state, possibly even county regulations, design guides that you've incorporated into your preliminary design review?
Yes.
2, have you identified a robust, what we call value engineering program to look at?
Just getting started on that now. We just hired the company that's gonna help us with the architect selection and then eventually the contract selection. So
It's usually a separate group. It's usually
Yeah.
a separate
They are-
group from the architect that does that.
Yes.
And third, I feel your pain, Judge, about having a courtroom. One of the things that killed projects or made them very unsavory is what we call mission creep.
Right.
We used to keep adding things, wouldn't it be nice to add this, wouldn't it be, and they're all fine and great ideas. But at the end of the day, they all cost money. And they chip away at your principle until the point where you've got a bloated project and no money.
Yeah. We're talking about a courtroom, all right? We're not talking about a whole courthouse, and we're also talking about the ability to do video, what was it called, radio arrangements or video?
Yeah,
Well-
they're not moving the old Bisbee
Well,
courthouse.
but
they're
what he
staying.
described is between all this ancillary and support structures to do that, just that one function, that's mission creep, and that all chips away at your core
It
project.
saves money in the long run, because that guy down at the end of the table here has to take 2 deputies
I-
to take one guy, throw him in the van, drive him over, and they have to sit there physically the entire time while you're paying for them until he gets in the courtroom, and then after he gets in there,
I
for what
understand.
could be a 15, 20-minute probable cause hearing, well, that's more your department, you guys, but, and then he goes back, has to haul them all back to the jail. What will happen now is they walk him down the hallway,
Yeah.
and they can lock him in there, they can have the guy arraigned or whatever it is, and then pick him up and just walk him right back. It's gonna save a ton of money.
I've had 2-star generals literally provide a logical discourse on why this had to be added to this project that I had,
No, yeah, you're talking
and
about
with no money
requirements.
behind it.
That's what we're talking about too. We sat down, of course, we have a good project manager that's working with us. And we have this new company that we just hired to help us with this aspects of selecting architects and contractors to go build this thing. Part of that is, and then the commander down at the end there has helped write the requirement, and we're following this NIJO standard to make sure that we're meeting all the requirements for a jail. All of that will be built. We will vote, the 2 of us along with Mr. Crosby, will vote on the final design. And that, once that vote occurs, that's it. We're not adding anything.
Is there any sort of public review of that final design?
Absolutely, there'll be public, there'll be probably
Is that
several.
gonna be before
several
after the CDR, before the final
critical
design?
review, yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
Okay.
we will have those will all be public meetings, and then we will have the final say, as we've given a target budget of $90 million for the building itself. Plus or minus or whatever, we have to understand that this thing's not gonna get started for another 1.5 to 2 years before we break ground on this thing. We have inflation, we have other things, so we have to consider some of those. That's why we're gonna put 10 million in reserve, in case we have inflationary impacts from over what we had. And then if those don't materialize, or not all of them materialize, whatever we have left out of that MR is gonna go straight to the bond and pay the bond back as soon as it's done.
But we've also told this new company that this is this is our cap.
And right,
We're not going
it's
above it.
designed to cost.
Designed to cost,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
very clear on what our mission is.
yeah.
And so they also are actually a vendor that actually has done this with multiple states building jails. So they have the experience, they know what we need, they know that we're actually a county that doesn't have a lot of money, and so we have to do it within the scope that we're
I've done these projects all over, and trust me, you can tell the people you're blue in the face that this is all the money I've got in the world. And I went back to Congress twice because they didn't have enough money.
Well, I mean, we're gonna do
That's
the
history.
absolute best that we can, and that's all we can do, but we know what our mission is, and that's to keep it
Okay.
within a certain realm, and all our meetings are open. We do not have closed meetings when we talk to this thing, it's open. Go onto the county website, follow? I mean, I don't know. Jane, do we have a special maybe section that just is gonna deal with the jail? Maybe we can set that up?
We do. We have a special page for the jail
Okay.
district.
And
Yes.
that's gonna be where everything is, and you guys have to go onto that website, because that's gonna be the best way for you to find information.
And in the back was Eli, I think, had a question. So,
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about the courtroom in the jail. There's early resolution court, which is kind of interesting to me because the justice court judges in misdemeanor cases have jurisdiction over the defendants, but then it gets over to the superior court. So it's kind of weird that a superior court judge is hearing a justice court proceeding.
I don't know how that procedure works.
I know how that procedure works.
And so the question I have is, for this jail, is it going to be a superior court judge inside is there going to be a whole new division created for this jail? Is it going to be a judge from one of the existing divisions and it's like a car drive and then they go back to their regular division?
My understanding is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kenny,
Yeah.
that the Wednesday morning early resolution court will occur in this courtroom.
Correct, so it's not, there's not gonna be a judge necessarily assigned there, it's gonna be a multi-use thing. So if Judge Poppy from JP1 wants to come over and do his initial appearances within 24 hours and utilize that courtroom, that's what he'll do. If one of the super court judges comes down and uses Wednesday mornings for the incarcerated people that are being seen for early resolution court, then they'll come down with their staff and utilize that area. But it's, in the planning, it's not gonna be a dedicated courtroom that you're gonna move somebody or create a new division or anything like that.
There's gonna be office space, because the judges have to have like chambers if they have to go talk to attorneys or something, so there'll be off rooms for that. There's gotta be rooms for attorneys to meet with their clients, and whatnot. So there will be the courtroom and then maybe another half dozen rooms, that are associated with that, but they're not gonna be permanently occupied. I don't think that's,
No, not
that's
at
the
all.
case. They're just gonna be there.
Yeah, I mean, if
For-
we have a
for a
real high
judge and his
profile
team,
case, we're a
attorney.
really dangerous person, we don't wanna move them all through the tourist area of Bisbee to get up to the courthouse, then they could utilize that area.
But should we know from the board of
Yeah,
supervisors?
let the judge weigh in. That's his prerogative.
Because you've been very patient. The answer to your question is, in order to participate in early resolution court, the defendant who's in custody or out of custody has to agree to extend the time to have the preliminary hearing that they're entitled to have in the Justice of the Peace Court. So they are voluntarily agreeing to participate in early resolution court. So you're right, when somebody's arrested and a complaint is filed, they're entitled to a preliminary hearing within 10 days if they're in custody and 20 days if they're out of custody in the justice court. But in order to participate in early resolution court, they have to waive that time. They have to agree to extend that time to a different date. And if the case is resolved in early resolution court, then it goes on to, they set a sentencing date, there's a change of plea, etc. And so they never have the preliminary hearing. If they reject the plea in an early resolution court, then what typically happens is the county attorney indicts them, presents their case to the grand jury before the preliminary hearing date, and then the preliminary hearing date is vacated. Does that make sense? And then almost every day, I think it's every day, there's arraignments in the jail. So we need a justice of the peace to come to the jail, physically come to the jail and see people. And it can be Judge Mendoza from Douglas, it can be Judge Poppy. Usually those are typically the two, I think they're the two. And there's no real space for them to do that. There's what they used to be a law library, and it's just an empty room with a table and a couple of chairs. And so this would make sure there's a record being made. So it would be that the courtroom would be utilized by a variety of different judges for different purposes.
So which clerk would handle this courtroom? Because there's also public records problems where the justice of the peaces around this whole county, there's zero transparency. The clerks in those offices are not trained on Arizona Supreme Court Rule 123. There's no public records computers in any of the justice courts. So I think we, the public, should know what apparatuses there are in the courtroom so that we can hold our judicial department locally accountable. So I think the Board of Supervisors should determine, is this gonna be a superior court?
That's not our department, right? So we're there to provide the resources.
You have the authority to appoint pro tem judges and
And the recommendation
redistrict
of-
justices of the peace.
Right, I got you, but we're talking about infrastructure to support the attorney and the county attorney and the judiciary. I don't wanna throw it over the wall, but that's their department. I don't make the decisions that you're talking about. That is not in our wheelhouse. We are gonna provide them the resources, which is a courtroom and the necessary areas alongside that courtroom to support whatever they need to do in that courtroom.
Are there gonna be public records computers at the jail for the
Sure
public to
they're gonna
look at
keep
court
them.
documents?
Keeping records, so.
I don't know. I assume so.
All right.
Yes, ma'am, you've been very patient.
We're going to, Mr. Chance had his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Oh, this is
First in the front row.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, he didn't, there's, so, could you give it 1 second, let this lady go?
I'll make it quick.
All right, we'll let this, and then we'll come straight back to you, sir.
So my question is, do you mind if I call you Kenny? I know you have an official title, so I apologize. Everybody's calling you Kenny, and I'm like trying to read, and at my age, I can't see.
Great.
Can I ask you right now in our, that was, by the way, those pictures were disgusting. And the fact that we allowed it to get that way, shame on us.
You don't get the smell of the pictures either.
Yeah, I was just like, it was appalling for inmates and for your, so I want to apologize as county. What's your average inmate population? Do you see it, has it increased over the last few years is my first question.
So, under the last administration, it definitely went really high with all the border problems that we were having.
How does that happen?
And that's going down now.
I'm sorry, can you explain that? How does our county jail have jurisdiction over border issues?
I will in just a second. Let me answer this lady's question real quick.
I have a quick question.
So, during the last administration, we had all those problems with, all the local crime because of all the people coming into the country. It went up. And then recently, it started to level off, but we're still seeing, just this year alone, for ARS 2323, we've seen 41 arrests for human smuggling under state law, under federal law.
So my next question is, is if we're seeing this increase, whether it's border or mental health, I believe,
Right.
Ms. Lori, Judge Lori, stated, Lori, and I respect what you do, by the way. If we're seeing this increase, my concern, and this is for you, Frank and Kathleen, is we're only going to increase the census to 400. We're already at 330. 330, so we're only going to increase the beds, and we're already bunking it up by 70 inmates. So that's a concern of mine, is we're seeing this, and if you're seeing it in newspapers, in the news, that our crime rates are going up in Arizona.
We've been doing credit to this guy.
I give him a lot of credit.
Our crime rate actually in the county is starting to drop. Cochise County.
It has, and I'll tell you, and Sandy's, your question is, everything we addressed in that border over the last several years were border state crimes, not immigration, state crimes for people coming here to do illicit acts, stolen vehicles, drugs, guns, pursuits, new state law says you can't smuggle, class 2 felony, 800 some people just on that.
Those are just crimes. They're
That's
state
what-
crimes.
you
They're not
asked-
border crimes.
Those are border-related crimes because we can argue all day about it.
They're state law crimes.
Yes, thank you, that's what I
Yeah.
said. And my point is this, that these are crimes that are related and have an nexus to the border. The border's under a different status right now, and that's helped us a lot, like Frank's saying, and Lori is. Our court system under ERC, the Early Resolution Court, helped us do it. I don't know how we did it between the judges and the county attorney, but we did it. But we did it because we had to do it to protect you, and I'm proud of that. But we're not in that same state right now. That's what I was saying. We're different now because people aren't coming across like they did. But either way, crime still. Our crime's still up there, don't get me wrong, but we have a consequence-driven crime. We have a county attorney prosecutes, the judge that does their job, and we have law enforcement. Look at the violent home invasions we had over the last couple of days, or a couple of months. They were in jail, we got them right away, and that's the message, hey, we're gonna go after you, and we do it. On the way down here this Phoenix Day, coming back in the county, I stopped 2 cars and made 2 different deals. Problem is, we hold people accountable in this county. We're now one that's gonna turn our back on people that break the law. So that's why we have the system, but it makes us feel safe.
And Sheriff, I have no doubt.
Wait, hold on.
I still got one more question.
Just to clarify, I just talked with Commander Bradshaw, we're under 300 is the daily running average right now. He was talking about the max that was there when we had the open board and we had all these associated crimes. We're daily running between 230, 250.
Yeah, we were 234 as well.
Yeah,
And thank you for that clarification. I really respect that you got that clarification. But my other concern is if we increase the jail to 400 inmates, where's the staffing fund coming from?
Well, we're gonna have to.
Because cameras
we're gonna
does
have to
not
fund-
guarantee
no, we're
safety
gonna have
to the officers, to the nurses, or to the.
We will have to increase funding through the general fund to support that. That's on Ms. Gomez, Mr. Crosby and I to make that happen. Right now, we're going off of the budget request for the staffing that the sheriff needs, and if he needs additional staffing, he'll ask for it, and then we'll have that discussion, and we'll probably give him the resources he needs if he has a requirement due to an increase in jail population. That's where that will come
Well,
from.
we have experts. NIJO, by the way, is National Institute of Jail Operations. They're the experts that have been guiding us for the last 4 or 5 years. So again, with the experts, based on Phil in the back and everybody else, they will help us guide those numbers, and we'll have a joint operation.
Right.
By the way, all my border operation, about 40% is paid through the state of Arizona right now. You're not paying for that either. That's personnel costs, which is 80% of my budget. So it really helps us a lot when it comes to doing that, offsetting those costs so we can get things done.
All right, we're gonna go to Mr. LaChance and then the lady in the black there. I don't know what her name is there, but Mr. LaChance, go ahead.
I see. So, try to get in a bunch of things real quick. First of all, and very importantly, I want to thank Frank Antonori and Ms. Gomez there, Kathleen Gomez, for helping us squeeze $250 million of slush fund out of this ridiculous jail district that we tried to do in the first place. So for that, you guys need to be very well applauded for helping us reduce $250 million out of that jail district, okay? That's a very good thing that you did there. But that doesn't mean that the $100 million left is where we need to be at on this thing. So, you know, we didn't really get any information about alternate courses of action other than to say something about renovation, but we never saw all of the alternate courses of action. We never saw all of the engineering specifications that said this is why this jail was bad. We just had somebody show us a few pictures about some water on the floor and everything, but didn't really spell out in engineering terms why this jail needs to be replaced. I mean, that's solid information that helps people understand why it needs to be replaced. So I want to continue here. The issue about notifications to the public and why we don't get notified. I didn't get notified about this meeting until this afternoon when I just happened to stumble on it. So we're not getting notification that we can be here and plan for. I had to kind of throw stuff together at the last second. Push messages, push text messages would easily resolve that, where the county PAO pushes text out to everybody that tells us about these meetings instead of having us have to go and try and figure out what individual page it might be on to do that. So I would ask that you can do that.
Jane, do we have an opt-in system where somebody can put their email and their phone number so that...
So currently, we only use the type of notifications that you're referring to for emergencies.
I'm talking about
that's
push
used
text
by the
message.
emergency management department for emergency notifications. There would have to be, I guess, a policy change to use that type of notification
So
for public meetings.
We'll look into that and setting up a system where you can opt in, because we just can't harvest people's stuff. So what we'll do is we'll try to get a website up, and we'll have to find a way to get it out there to tell you, go here, put your email in it, and when Jane
Push
puts-
texting is real easy to do. I can help you with that if you need to have some ideas about how you can do push texting.
Well, I did it during the election. I sent text
But it's a
messages.
cost,
I
it's
get
a
it.
cost.
Well,
So I just wanted to bring that up, that we're not getting the information in a timely
But you
manner.
also have to be responsible as a constituent, as a taxpayer, to go on our county website. There's so much information there, and we're gonna set up a page, you said that.
It's already set up, yes.
So what do? Type in jail? And and they go to the page?
It's under the main menu. They would just go to the jail
So,
page. Yeah.
I ask of you guys also to help us because we don't have a lot of staff, we don't have a lot of money. And if you would please go onto the county website.
We
and
do,
keep it
we
up.
do all the time.
And
But
so
we
would
didn't
you
find
give
out
me
about that one.
I'll tell you how I know you know this, because when we opened up the publicity pamphlet to pros and cons statements, right? The only two guys that issued the pro statements were myself and the sheriff. Nobody knew that. I went and talked to the Republican Women's Club, and they were furious that they didn't know that the pro and con statement period was open.
Yeah.
And then they didn't get a chance to submit pro or con statements. But you guys
I got mine in at the last second.
That's right. You guys, so you must be going somewhere to get information because you were able to find that information. We hear you loud and clear that we got to find a way to better message. And we'll meet with Jane and Sharon and try to develop some strategies to try to get the information. And the sheriff's.
I'll throw it out, I'll throw the rest of the means on our Facebook page.
Yeah, we're gonna try
You
to
can
increase
easily
that.
set up a
So I'm-
subscription news.
I'm glad that you're willing to take that on.
Yeah,
That's
we're gonna
the
do that. I got it on
important
here.
thing. But the other couple of things that I want to talk about is the show us the money on the way this thing is going to get paid off, because I very much like the idea that you're going to increase payments, get it done early, but without us having the transparency to look at the funding, to look at the budgeting, to look at how money's coming in and how it's being spent, we can't be assured that that's going to happen. So in the ballot pamphlet, are you going to put in there all of these specifics that you have mentioned today about the fact that it will be paid off early, not late? We're going to use the money effectively instead of running a tax for a whole bunch of years just because the tax can be run and then it somehow gets reinitiated. We need certainty on all of these things if you want us to say yes. We need certainty on how it's going to be spent and when it's going to be spent, so that we can move forward. And if it really truly makes sense to say yes, then say yes. And right now we're not getting that kind of information.
So we are going to put the two amortization schedules in the publicity pen. So you'll see the 15-year and the 10-year that will be in there that will show you. So under Title 48 though, which is the special district's title, the statutes governing the publicity pamphlet, we cannot give you the best case scenario. We have to give you the worst case scenario. That's what you're voting on. The worst case scenario is it's going to take 15 years to pay off this jail. All I can give you is the commitment of myself, Ms. Gomez, and Mr. Crosby. While we are there, we will make sure that any additional.
What happens when you aren't?
I can't guarantee that. You're asking me to guarantee. The only thing I can guarantee is there's going to be a 15-year bond to pay off the jail. That is what you're voting on, and that's what you're going to see. But we're going to provide the 10-year amortization schedule with a comment in there that the board is going to put the additional principal towards the principal of the bond to try to pay the bond down. And here's an example of a 10-year amortization schedule, which will show you how much we're going to save in interest and how we can reduce time. That is a commitment from Ms. Gomez, Mr. Crosby, and myself to make sure that at the end of the year, whatever additional revenue that sales tax brought in, we put that towards the bond payment. And that's all I can do within the confines of statute, because I got to go by Title 48. And Title 48 says this is the parameters that you have to put in the pamphlet. And I can't put anything in this pamphlet or any promises in this pamphlet.
Title 48 also says that you can't include justice complex stuff in the jail.
There is no justice complex.
So, well, we're talking about adding justice things here, courtrooms and this and that and the other. That's not really part of a jail system. It's part of the court system. I don't know how you can include the court stuff in the building of the jail when it says in Title 48 that you cannot do that.
No, we're not building a courthouse. We're not building a whole complex here. We're building a jail, and in the jail, we're going to have a courtroom to save money.
It saves you liability. Transportation is our biggest liability, and to be able to do it in-house is efficient. It's also safe.
But can it be done legitimately using the jail district tax, because the jail district tax says you can't do that. It says you can't.
It's not a new courthouse. It's just a room. If you have you toured the facility? Did you tour the jail at any one point in time?
I've gone out and looked
Okay,
at
well,
the
we go into
outside.
the have a processing room in which people can, their lawyers can come and meet with them, and they can, talk to the judge and all that stuff. It's just a room within the facility. It is not a courthouse. It's just a room.
But you're gonna run court cases in there.
No.
No, they're not gonna run trials. They're not gonna run trials in there. They're gonna run hearings, and they're gonna, what's that expedited, what's that called? Early resolution court in there. If they don't wanna, if the inmates or the accused don't wanna do that, they get a full trial, and they gotta go over the Bisbee courthouse for the full trial.
If you go look at some of the other jail districts in the state, they all have those kind of processes. You have jail interview rooms, all that. They're standard within an operation jail. We're not building courthouses, we're building facilities within a jail that works for the benefit of the jail.
Well, he had an issue that I kind of felt was important, the mission creep issue here, where we're adding things to it that we have to make sure that it makes financial sense, but also meets the district, the statute requirements. So, listen, there's a lot more, but I don't want to take everybody's time. I'll send you some additional information on this, and hopefully we can really, continue to. One last thing, on the vote. The vote is going to be the most critical thing. There's two issues here that we have to address. The massive disparity between how walk-in voters get to vote and how mail-in voters get to vote. And there's a huge disparity there, and some would say, I've included in that it's an equal protection clause violation of the 14th Amendment because of the issues of how mail-in voters get to do things that the walk-in voters don't get to do. That has to be addressed for this election if we're ever going to have a certifiable election, a verified certifiable election as to who actually voted. And there's a way to do that, and we need to address that. And we need to address it before the election so that we can finally, once and for all, give some certainty to the people of this county that our elections are legitimate.
Are you talking about the chain of custody? Is that what you're talking about, Dan, the chain of custody for the mail-in ballots?
Chain of custody, voter identification, right, there's some big things there that
we'll have to get with Mr. Cloud. The county recorder handles a lot of that stuff. The election stuff is under myself, Ms. Gomez, and Mr. Crosby, and we can talk about the conducting of the election, the physical aspects of it. What you're talking about is all county recorder stuff, so we'll have to set up a time where we can meet with Mr. Cloud.
Let's recorder any election, but I've asked for this, and let's do it. Let's get this out there so that the people of this county can.
I can't speak for Mr. Cloud, so I said we got to bring him into that equation for what you're discussing right there.
That's not in this.
But we'll talk. We'll set something up to talk to Mr. Cloud about it. But he's also confined to what comes down from the state as well. 99% of what he does is.
So please include me in that discussion, because when I gave this information to County Recorder Stevens 3 years ago, whatever it was, in April of 2023, Stevens said that would work. It would work great. We'd be able to do the same kind of custody and identity, and we'd save the county $100,000 in return postage fees. And nothing happened. Okay. So I want something to happen.
Kathleen and I, we oversee the elections department. What you're talking about as far as the ballots and IDs, and that is Mr. Cloud. But I can help get that connection together.
I mean, you guys are responsible for conducting the election, right?
The physical election, the ballot stuff is county recorder. So there's two separate. But let me go to the lady with the black blazer there.
So my name is Sandy Russell. I'm an attorney in this town. So is my husband, Chris Russell. My problem with the jail tax, and I believe Sheriff Daniels is doing everything he can to reduce crime, I believe all of that, is that I'm wondering how a jail could be built in 1986 without a medical clinic or without a lot of the things that should have been obvious to include in a jail in 1986. And I come from other areas of the country with buildings that are a lot older than your 40-year-old jail. I've been in and out of jails in different states representing various defendants. I've also seen, in Fulton County, Georgia, DeKalb County, Georgia, we were, having inmates appear via phone or video 20 years ago. I mean, long time ago, without any need for anyone to go to the jail. So I'm not understanding why that can't work and why it hasn't been working already in Cochise County. But my issue is, I'm concerned that we are doing some of the same things that we probably did in 1986, rushing to do things without doing things properly and without the proper transparency and without including the proper stakeholders and without having enough public input. This gentleman here makes a very good point. I haven't seen anything to go along with it. No one's seen the NIJO report. That has not been transparent. But there are issues with the accrediting agency being the one who has done this report. There's conflicts of interest. There's all kinds of problems. You're saying trust you. I'd love to be able to do that, but you're the government. I don't trust the government. I'm concerned. How do we stop $30 million embezzlement that we saw in Santa Cruz County? Who's controlling the money? I have a lot of questions before I'm going to.
We're controlling the money. You're looking at the two of us right here, right? So
who's the two of us? Because
well, it's three of us. It's myself, Ms. Gomez, Mr. Crosby. Every dollar that goes. So let me tell you what we did. So any money that was spent on anything that wasn't directly related to the construction of the jail, we restored to the fund. And then we directed the county treasurer to isolate that money. So there is 14 now, based on the last tax revenue that came in, there is $14 million sitting in this isolated account. We just approved $400K for a fire alarm. We took that out of our reserve fund, not the jail district tax funds.
okay, so the Board of Supervisors is overseeing the money?
Yes, we
You're
are
overseeing it.
We are overseeing every dime, and we vote on all of that publicly. It takes the three of us to vote to spend any money out of the jail district tax.
Okay.
All of that will be handled by us and Ms. Traywick, the treasurer, who has explicit instructions that that money is firewalled. And it is only to be used for jail construction, design, and architectural related costs that go to anything else is coming out of the general fund. Like I said, we just did the approval for the emergency funding to put in a new fire alarm and pay for a contractor to pull fire guard on this jail, which was directed by the fire marshal, which we had to do. We had no choice, right? So that's coming out. We are not taking that money out of the jail district tax revenue. We're taking it out of the general fund. Only construction and associated with like architecture, those kind of things are taken out of the jail district money. It will all go towards construction and only construction of the jail.
Well, that alleviates one of my concerns because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't under the control of one person, that there were enough safeguards in place to make sure.
It never was.
It never was.
Okay.
Yeah, it never was. So.
And then my other issue is, where is the engineer report that, engineers that have come and inspected this building and have provided an opinion as to the deficiencies or the costs to renovate it? Because you're saying we have to trust you that it can't be renovated, and
no, it
can
be renovated. It will cost a huge amount of money.
I've listened to y'all respectfully.
Right.
Okay, and in listening to you, what I heard you say was that it's going to cost us $9 million if we have to house inmates over here in Pima County or wherever. And I understand that, but I'm also not stupid. If the inmates are being housed over there, we're not paying to house them here. You got to pay to house them somewhere. Whether you're housing them here, whether you're housing them in Pima County, it's going to cost us money. So the point is,
Doesn't cost us.
well, I mean, how long for the renovations? I haven't seen anything in the public realm that shows me a comparison between I've never seen the NIJO report because that's not public, and I don't know what an engineer would say in terms of how much it would cost to renovate or to add on if we wanted to add on, how long it would take, how long these renovations would take. Are we talking 6 months? Are we talking 3 months? Is it a year? How long would we have to house these inmates somewhere else? This is my problem, it's the lack of transparency. If you're asking me and this public to pay $150 million for something,
130, let's get it right, because that's
Well,
what
the numbers have been all over the place.
Information gets out there, let's state the facts, which we
Okay.
stated.
the point is, there needs to be transparency. We need, as a public, if you want me to vote yes, I need to see these other things.
Let me say this to you, Sandy, on the thing is, I have a report that the experts came in that are nationally recognized for accreditation. They work very close with Commander Bashall and all the sheriffs in the country. They came in and did a report for us. It's a risk assessment, and it's also an infrastructure assessment. I don't release that because as the White House, Congress, the Capitol in Arizona, and many sensitive organizations for Huachuca, they all have risk assessments on their facilities. We don't give them because, but listen, don't, please, is the fact that that's to protect my officers in the jail and protect the inmates in that jail. I would love to give it to everybody in this room, but I can't, okay? Because that jeopardizes. If a judge says give it out, y'all can have it, but I'm telling you right now, you're gonna cause us big grief for what that jail is. The White House wouldn't give you their risk assessment, so why would you expect a jail that I have to have security measures in place to protect the inmates, the officers, and the security of that facility on the facility that's infrastructurally bad?
And I understand
Hope
that's
that
your
makes sense.
position. I've read the briefs and the case, and I understand that's your
So you know I'm
position.
going.
But my problem is with the report itself. The NIJO report was not, there was nobody else that has come and done a report. No one else was, it wasn't put up for bid. It wasn't, you didn't have other people come in and do an assessment. It's the lack of credibility of having NIJO, who has in their information that their goal is to increase budgets for sheriff's departments and law enforcement. I mean, that's one of their missions. And I think there is a lack of credibility inherent in that report to begin with. I don't trust that report. What I would like to see is an independent assessment from somebody who is not connected with who accredits you. And I'm also kind of are you still accredited by NIJO?
We're not accredited, we don't work for NIJO.
Okay.
They're a resource for sheriffs at a minimum cost, number one. Number two is, I've never heard the statement about their jobs to increase salaries, increase staffing. I don't know where you ever got that from. But I'm just saying, you're making a lot of allegations on that, and I'm gonna get a little defensive on that, because that report was done at minimum nominal dollars to do that, We're paying for assessments on the jail that are costing us.
Look, I know how much it cost. It was like $4,000,
Very
something like that.
nominal.
I agree, but if are we gonna pay $150 or $150 million by mistake because we went cheap on 130, how much? 130.
20 million is a lot different.
Whatever the amount is, it
No,
doesn't
well,
matter.
say the right amount, because this is what I get really upset about, because I deal with it now in 7 months, is how much misinformation gets out. When that misinformation gets out, it is amazing how it expands.
When did
So
you put out the
we have-
130 million?
It's all over the place.
I know, but it's changed. Has it not changed over the
No, it
time?
has not.
It's been that has been the
Okay, so-
total budget for since we established that back in.
I'm sorry to have offended you by being off by $20 million.
No, this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's very important to have the facts correctly. Because your 20 million will become now, it's gonna be 180 million, it becomes a 200 million.
Yeah, well,
And I
I'm
see it
offended that
across
there's no
the process.
transparency. So there, I'm very offended by
I
that.
don't know where you're saying there's no transparency.
There needs to be an engineer report.
We had 16 meetings, public meetings, televised meetings. You know, and I don't know, Jane, what was the total number of meetings we did? Did you find that number out?
In any of those meetings, was there an engineer report produced?
So when we had those public meetings, all those public meetings are available on the jail.
Yeah.
So all the ones that you were
So
involved in.
the specific engineering aspects that you're talking about is, did we go out and get 3 bids for renovating jail? No, we did not do that. We had a citizens advisory committee that was appointed by the various members of the board of supervisors. During that process, we were asked 2 questions. Do we renovate the old jail, or do we recommend building a new jail? After reviewing the condition of the jail and all the aspects related, we got some information regarding the cost that it would take to renovate the jail and all the logistical challenges with renovating the jail. The Citizens Advisory Committee, which I was on, I was there for that, recommended, this was 2 years ago,
recommended to the Board of Supervisors that the best course of action would be to build a new jail. That was me as Mr. Antonori back then, not Supervisor Antonori, because Mr. Crosby put me on the Citizens Advisory Committee to oversee it. I wrote like a 6-page letter to him about what I thought would be some of the best options to do this. I am implementing some of those now. I can't do all of them. I wish there's other reasons that the state prohibits me from doing some because I want to exercise different contracting mechanisms. What the state says I can't do that because of their procurement code. I want to go get other bids to do other stuff, but I can't do that because of the cost of doing that. And I don't want to blow this budget by going out and putting RFPs out and getting costs added to this when we know that the best course of action is to build a new jail. I could go out and get bids. We could do that. It's going to waste money. And that money could have been used to build a new jail that will likely be what we're going to end up having to do.
And you could be right, it could be the best course of action, but you need to have the data for the public to be able to look at it and make that determination when they vote. And it's not there. It's not there. I haven't found it.
Did you follow the Chin study? Because that was really a very comprehensive, deep dive, detail, and it's on the website.
I have not followed the Chin study.
I just can get it on the website.
What do you get for $4,000? I'm just like.
Oh, you're talking about this night thing?
I can't even imagine an engineer rolling out of bed and driving
there was no
2 hours
engineering on
further
that.
from
There's
to
no engineering.
$4,000.
This is an entity that came in and reviewed the jail and provided the sheriff information regarding that. There wasn't an engineering study.
What
Can
does
we
your
have
plan look
one
like?
conversation, please?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know, I know you probably aren't happy with the answer, but did we answer your question, or?
No, you didn't.
What
I mean,
was
I will
the-
look at the Chin report, but as far as I
No,
know,
I told you, we did not do an
Okay, so-
engineering study or do RFPs on renovating the
And-
jail because the decision was that.
my vote would be no then. I want to see an engineer report.
It's a,
Then maybe
I'll tell you
still
what,
pass it.
I'll tell you what, you're talking about $350,000 to go do that. Do you want me to take $350,000 that we know will result in the same outcome and spend $350,000?
I don't believe that's.
No,
true.
that's what it's gonna cost. I
don't
gotta go
believe
out,
that's
I gotta
true.
get procurement to put out RFPs, I gotta get, I have to pay. They don't come in and do that for free. So I gotta pay these guys to come into the jail.
I've
They all
done some
gotta get-
construction
hang on.
litigation and I've hired
They
engineers
all
for
gotta
these
get,
things.
they all gotta get background
It's not-
checks that I have to pay for before they go in there. Then they have to have a certain amount of time to do that. They can write their report and then they're gonna present us the report. Right? That's gonna probably cost $100 and some grand each to go for each of those companies. If you want 3 independent reviews, that's what it's gonna cost.
So I'm not a lawyer,
Sure.
I'm not a lawyer.
Sure.
So my question is, you guys did some research with the other jails that have been built in Arizona over the last 10 years or so?
Yeah.
And you figured out some of the best things to be put in there, like courtroom, that kind of stuff? So how many jails have been built in Arizona in the last 10 years, approximately?
And then I'll answer, because I did some tours
Yeah,
too.
so we did tours. In fact, Phil right here, our project manager, the guy right here just raised his hand. We took him out of Yavapai because he was working, built the jail down there. We went and toured that one. Pam and I have been over the country looking at jails. And let me tell you, we can talk about infrastructure challenges. Well, let's talk about industry challenges too. We're not up to par. And Phil, if you have any questions, he can tell you right there. He'd probably be the best to answer
How
that.
much was the Yavapai jail approximately,
$75 million.
When?
Yeah, when was that built approximately?
That ended in 2023.
So it was built in 2020?
It was started prior to that, it was opened in 2020.
But that's apples and oranges too.
Yeah, so
No,
I mean,
and I know it is, we have different challenges here than Yavapai
right,
does.
and Senator Gallen took me up into the new prison in Florence. I toured the new state prison that was up there that has all this new state-of-the-art stuff, and that's some of the stuff that, when I talked to Commander Bradshaw about trying to do what we can to automate the jail, have certain features, but that's all just started. Again, we just brought on our buyer's rep, and we're gonna start talking with architects about putting the requirements that we get from the sheriff's office, sheriff's department, sheriff's office, right? Sheriff's office. I get them mixed up all the time. I get yelled at, by the way, by somebody else. The sheriff's office is gonna provide us the requirements. Commander Bradshaw, who's an expert in jails and prisons, is going to be the guy that validates those requirements, and then they're gonna be given to us, and then we're gonna use those requirements with the architects to design the cost to the $90 million cost bogey target that we wanna put towards what we think the physical building is gonna cost, and then we will initially find out, we may have to go up, or maybe we can come down and save money, maybe we can do it for 85 million, or maybe it's gonna end up costing 95 million, we're gonna have to see based on the requirements, but that's all part of the project. That is gonna take place, so let me say, we can't really execute anything until July of next year, and that's only after the voters approve what we're asking them to approve in November. In July of next year is when the tax kicks back in. That's when we can start hiring architects. Right now, we're gonna lean forward in this as much as possible, get all of this done between now and then, with the funding that we have from the current revenue that was generated from previous tax. So we're gonna, and Phil and his team, and then the buyer's rep and our county staff, we're gonna have several public meetings on this. Okay, this is all gonna be open to the public. And we're gonna have those discussions. You guys are welcome to come to those and sit in those meetings. Yes. Or sit on the Zooms, but we're gonna have these meetings, and you're gonna hear architects say, well, that's gonna cost this much, and we're gonna say, well, we don't want that, and that's gonna cost that much. You wanna add something, Phil?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my name's Phil Brown.
Yes.
I try not to speak. I'm the project management assistant working for Cochise County on this project. The key thing, and you brought it up, what is being incorporated into this jail that is modern and needed? Detention-related court facilities, that's the key. It's detention-related and helps efficient processing in the jail. That's a standard that's being done nationally throughout Arizona, throughout the country. Mental health facilities and improving mental health capacity and outcomes in your jail is the most important thing right now, because you need to get people out that don't need to be in there and get them to treatment while they're in jail, and then do hot handoffs as they get out of jail. And you have a staff that is trying to do it very well right now with the facilities they have, but it is deficient. So I'm sorry to speak, but those are the two items when you talk about your jail that are very important, that are incorporated. Sure, there's inmate facilities that are going to be incorporated into this new jail, but there are some really important things that are not being accomplished in this jail, that can be accomplished in this current jail, that will be in a future jail. And those are the two most important things. Thank you.
I'd also like to put out that we had a work session where we were talking to Vinium, and they talked a lot about what you're talking about. And you can go on to, I think it was about a month ago.
And then the last thing I will add, the owner's rep that you just hired is a third party that works directly for the Board of Supervisors. They are a construction management group, and they are not going to be the architect, they are not going to be the construction group. They are the third party working directly for the board to help hire and manage the architects and construction firms that do this project. They do value engineering as part of the process during the design and construction. The gentleman brought that up earlier. These are the things that will go on. You as a county are doing exactly what you should be doing. You're constructing a new jail and you're hiring the professionals to do it right. So, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, gentleman, right here.
I just want to say that all these discussions wouldn't even be happening if we wouldn't have sued the county and got this new election. So I'm really happy that all this is happening. We want a jail, without a doubt. We just don't want the sham that we had before we went to court, okay?
Yeah, I got you. We are trying to balance.
Right.
You know, the taxpayers.
That's what you're doing right now.
The taxpayers' value with the needs for a new jail facility. Right? We're trying to find that balance, and that's a challenge. But we're going to do the best we can to do that. And again, you know, we're trying to stick to this $130 million budget.
I agree. I think you're doing a great job. But thank God for Danny. We wouldn't even be here. We'd be looking at the $325 million. So this is nice that we're only looking at $115 million. 130. Raise it to 150, I don't care. Yeah, a lot of difference between the two, whatever.
Yes, sir, in the back here. Yeah.
what are you gonna do with the old jail? Are you gonna continue using it? Or is it gonna be part of this?
You know, I talked to Commander, it is in such bad shape. We looked at using it for classrooms, even looked at it for just like storage. It is in such bad shape that we've been
So
told.
it can't be used for?
Can't be used for anything. We're gonna probably end up.
We looked at a lot of different repurposing
Well, not
ideas.
even for court facilities, sir?
We looked at it for an animal shelter even, because it's already separated and everything else, but we couldn't do that. We didn't want to do that to animals. We also looked at it for an evidence storage facility where we could actually possibly make money off of it. Where we could go to Sierra Vista PD and say, hey, chief, for the low price of $19.95 a day, we'll keep all that long-term 99-year evidence that you don't have room for anymore. But because of the roof leaks and the environmental issues and the water runs in because of the way it was built, the back of the jail is higher uphill on a mountain than the lower part, so water runs in through the rec yards into the actual jail. We would just be ruining evidence. So the best bet that everybody has come up with is give it back to the desert. We'll just bulldoze it.
Okay, I got one more question. Sure. Are you gonna consider the 60% supermajority for tax elections, in this,
No. So let me tell you, so we had a settlement agreement that was approved by an Apache County judge.
Right?
That in order to get to where we are now, we would, if we had to adjudicate all the other aspects of this that were in the original lawsuit, we would not be here right now. We'd still be in court. So the outcome, the best outcome was the settlement agreement that was agreed to by Mr. LaChance et al. And the county et al. To have this redo of this election. And part of that redo that was approved by the judge did not include that 60%.
Right, but that's a constitutional
It did not
requirement.
include that in the settlement agreement. Like I said, Mr. LaChance.
It's in the settlement agreement.
No, it's not. No, it's
Yeah,
not.
60%, it says in the settlement agreement that the plaintiffs.
You're free to negotiate that, and that's what I've told you, that you can take it back to court, and that's your right to do so. And you're more than able to take that back to court.
The plaintiffs agree that the 60% supermajority is required. The county does not have a position. That's what's in the settlement.
No, but it
So
wasn't directed
it's an
by the
unresolved
judge.
issue.
What the judge directed was he, in that settlement agreement, allowed us to have a redo election, and part of that redo did not include the 60%.
Right, but a judge can't circumvent the Constitution, sir.
So again, this is something that's gonna be settled in the courts, right? If you wanna bring that case, you're free to do so because you have not gotten resolution on that 60%, through the Supreme Court, right? They did not rule on that 60%.
Because it's the settlement.
So you're still, that's right, so you're still open to bring that case, and you're welcome to do
Well,
so.
we should get it resolved before the election to resolve the issue.
So, I've had, Dan, I talked to you for 2 hours on this very topic, and we could have that 2-hour discussion again right now if we were to go down there, but you know where I'm at on it. The state will make that decision. There's the court cases, in Scottsdale, that will likely go sometime next year, probably July, August next year, we'll go through the court process, and that answer may come that you're looking for. But right now, we have to operate within the confines of the settlement agreement and the statute, and that's what we're trying to do the best we can.
Operate within the Constitution, too.
All right, Eli, you had another question?
So my question wasn't answered. So this courtroom that's gonna be inside the jail, is it gonna be the Superior Court?
I don't want to shut you off, but we're talking about that's a process that I think, not to dump it off on.
It's a courtroom, Eli.
It's a courtroom.
It's not a division, it's not a JP,
It's a
it's an
space.
empty room.
To do
The
that
judges can
related.
Yeah, right. But that's something that if you want to take up with the clerk or and whatnot. We're talking about the jail construction stuff. How that is operated is not my department or the jails or the sheriff's department. We don't do the.
Is there gonna be a law library inside of the jail?
It's mandated that we provide inmates the ability to assist in their own defense. So back when I first started in 1986, there was a room full of books and all this other stuff.
And a computer.
Now we have a standalone computer, and every quarter we get a new hard drive from LexisNexis, change out the hard drive, And inmates can sign up to use that library, and they will have more access to more computers if we can get a new facility.
So
I also, I'm sorry, I also wanted to ask about the location in Bisbee. So it's obvious most of the population is here in Sierra Vista. So if a police officer grabs somebody in Sierra Vista, takes them to Bisbee, and then, you know, they get their hearing and it's like, oh, okay, you can leave now. So, you know, I've never been to jail, but I imagine the front door is open, you walk out, you gotta figure out where to go.
There's a bus stop.
The bus stop.
So,
It's Shank's
They
Mare.
built a bus stop out there.
so is there a bus between
Yes.
Bisbee and Sierra Vista?
Yes.
We did
At
that.
Bisbee and Douglas, you know, at Bisbee and
Alright.
Tucson.
You gotta walk to Wilcox.
Getting off track, man. With all due respect, we're talking about a half-cent sales tax to build a jail. That's all procedure stuff, that's all operational stuff, and that's kind of not where we're at here. We're here to talk and answer questions about the process of building a new jail and the election that will allow that and a half-cent sales tax, and how we intend to spend the revenue and focus that towards construction of jail.
Are you guys, to add on to Sandy's question as to reaching out to stakeholders, are you guys contacting people who are interested in advocating for inmates? Like,
Not relevant to this, that's nothing to do with a jail construction.
Yes, it does.
so if an inmate gets sued, right, they have to be served papers, there's visitation, there's all these other things. There's certain.
So Eli, when they did the chin study, they reached out to all parts of the community. They would, the victims' rights folks, they
I
did,
never heard from them. The defense attorneys never heard from
the
them.
defense attorneys did.
Yes, I did.
Just not you probably. I don't know how they selected them. But
I haven't been here for me.
they talked to the defense part, they talked to the judges, they talked to.
We're derailing the discussion, with all due respect,
Right.
Commander Bradshaw. I want to get back to the beginning. We have an election in November. There's a process that occurs between now and then, right? We got a publicity pamphlet that we're finalizing right now that's getting ready to be published and sent out to the voters. When, Sharon? October? The second week, sometime in October.
Yes, yes.
You're gonna get the publicity pamphlet that explains a lot what we all said here tonight. There will be pro statements, there will be con statements in there. Then we will have the election, and the outcome of that election, if the voters, 50% plus one, I know, 50% plus one say that they will approve the half-cent sales tax, then we notify the state that we're gonna restart the tax. Unfortunately, because the way DOR works, it doesn't get turned on until July 1st. But between now and then, Phil and Sharon and the Board of Supervisors will be working with our buyer's rep, and we will be moving forward with that to fill that time until that tax is turned on, with as much work as we can get done up until we have to start writing checks, which we can't do until that tax gets turned on. At that time, we will then go out for a bond. Hopefully, we can do some of the preliminary work, but come July, we'll get that bond. And that bond will be a 15-year bond for $100 million. And then we will go through the rest of the process of hiring a contractor to build the jail. That jail will be built. We will all stand out there. We will cut the ribbon on the jail. The sheriff will move the inmates from the old jail over to the new jail, and we will start paying off the mortgage on that. And hopefully we can pay that mortgage off in less than 10 years. And at the end of that 10 years, we dissolve the jail district and we stop the tax. And then that's the end.
But in
That's
another
the
25
process. So if you have any
years,
questions about that, that's what I'm saying. That's what the
in
question.
another 25 years, will we be building another jail?
No.
Because it wasn't
No.
properly invested.
It's 40 years old now.
That'll be 40 years.
I
10 years
won't
for
be
paying your
alive,
bond off.
and neither will
At
you.
25 years, that's 40 years. That's,
We will, I am hoping this jail will last more than 100 years. Okay, 100 years. The only thing we will do is if we have the inmate population approach 400, we will have to build another 100 inmate addition to add on.
I'd like to see the data that shows.
That's the only thing we're building in the future, is another cell house, somewhat. That's it. So, any other questions? We got like 5 minutes left before we get kicked out of the fire
I'd just
station.
like to thank you guys.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to thank you guys for putting all this effort into it. I think you've been transparent, because all you have to do is go to the city council meetings and read the paperwork and stuff.
Are you a scientist?
And,
No.
County
So you
supervisor.
don't know you have to do that.
county supervisor, yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
if we aren't doing that ourselves,
We're gonna try, you
then
know,
why
get
are
out.
we not?
We're gonna try to get an opt-in system where you can sign up to get emails on this stuff, so that, we're gonna try to set that up, so yes, in the back, way in the back.
Hi, I'd just like to say, so I'm with 13 News. I
Oh.
know someone mentioned that you had heard it on our website, or, you know, on TV or anything like that. And this is something that I've been covering and following for months now. And every press release that we get from them, we do air it on our TV. I know not everyone has, you know, uses cable or anything like that, but we do also have it on our website. For example, in my most recent article, the story that I did just on Monday, we have a full list of all of the meetings that they will be holding and the locations and those times. I know obviously, you know, there's other ways to figure it out, but it's just one thing that we are trying to do to be sure that you all are as informed as possible, thanks to the partnership with, you know, Cochise County's PIO and everything like that. I'm actually from Sierra Vista, and so I know what it's like in trying to get that information. And so just wanted to let you all know that 13 News, at the very least, we are very, very big on trying to keep you guys as informed as possible with, you know, the partnership that we have with the community.
And I want to thank you, because I saw it when I was in Tucson, and I was shocked. So thank you very much.
Can I ask one last question? And this concerns the sheriff. I just want to know, normally with modernization, you are able to reduce staff because of the modernization, because of the automation and all of these various things. Has any analysis been done that would say that if we build this new jail, we will be able to eliminate a certain number of staff due to the new automation and, you know, the way the jail's let out, the cameras, all of these things? Has any of that analysis been done?
There's been discussion on that, and there has been some stuff done on that, but that's more of a myth than a reality.
And it's not like a factory. If we have less inmates, I mean, or if we have, you know, more machines and robots, then we don't need necessarily less staff. But we haven't had an architect. We don't even know what the building's going to look like, how many posts they're going to be, what control rooms, what kind of stuff is out there that we don't even know yet. And that's what Phil and these companies that are going to come in are going to say, hey, look, this is available, and this might be able to save you some staff, but we don't know.
And that's what I'm saying, is that I'd like, if I were a bank, in other words, you guys haven't presented a business plan, right? And if I were a bank, I would not loan you money right now based on the information you're providing. And that's my concern. And I know that you're a government entity, but in order for the public to have trust in what you're doing, you should have to kind of go through those same steps and provide the data and do those analysis, do those cost projections, do the.
Sandy, I would ask you,
projections.
can you go to that website
Let me
and
just
look at all those reports?
Answer that question.
I will go.
Thank you.
Okay, let me answer that question. So the county went through the exact steps they're supposed to. They did a planning study which defined in general terms the number of beds that they needed to provide and some of the other things that they needed to do within the jail and the criminal justice system to keep the number of inmates down over time so that they can build the least amount of beds. 390 to 400 is the amount listed in that study. That was the step they took, because that's the step you take. You do a planning study, gets kind of a general outline of what you're going to provide. Now they're going to hire, they hired an owner's representative to act on their behalf so that they can now hire an architect, go through using that study and the parameters in that study to start designing a jail, which will take into account a lot of the modernization and activities that are in normal jails. And then at that point, when they're starting to lay it out, that's when they look at trying to minimize the staff. So these are all good questions, but they are doing exactly the steps they need to do. They've done the planning study. Please go online and look at it. it is the first step, and the next step they took, which was, thank you very much, hiring yourself an owner's rep, is gonna, although be costly during the entire project, will save you money because you're gonna have somebody watching your back in this county on every dollar spent, what the architect and construction firms. So what you're asking, a lot of the activities you're asking, a lot of the questions will be answered as they go through the design process. So stay tuned for that.
And it's all, again, it's all gonna be public, so you're all welcome to join us for those wonderful future meetings that we'll all be having, many of. So, and with that, it's 8 o'clock, so thank you again.